You may have heard of spoofed calls where the caller ID has the name of a company and a fake number. But what if you got a call like that which also included your bank's real number? The scam cost one local woman $2,000.
If you bank with Bank of America, you need to know about this right now. An 84-year-old just lost $20,000 in minutes to scammers who knew her exact account details. This wasn't sloppy, it was professional, and it's happening multiple times daily across every major bank. Margaret Johnson had been a loyal Bank of America customer for over 30 years. She kept her retirement savings there, carefully managing her finances after her husband passed away. Last month, everything changed when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Bank of America, and the person on the line identified himself as a fraud prevention specialist. What happened next devastated her finances and shattered her trust. Within hours, $20,000, nearly half of her life savings, was gone, transferred to accounts she'd never heard of. When she realized what happened and contacted the actual Bank of America, they told her something crushing. The transfers were authorized and they wouldn't be covering her loss. For the past 3 months, Margaret has been fighting to recover her money, living on Social Security while her case drags on. The call that started it all seemed completely legitimate. The scammer greeted Margaret by name and explained they'd detected suspicious activity on her account. To prove they were legitimate, they recited her recent transactions: a $42.17 purchase at the local pharmacy, $128.63 at the grocery store, and even her current account balance of $41,238.52. "I trusted them completely," Margaret told investigators. "They knew everything about my account. Who else could have that information but my bank?" The scammer explained her account had been compromised, and funds needed to be moved immediately to a secure holding account until the threat was neutralized. They guided her through making several wire transfers, reassuring her this was standard bank security protocol. When she questioned anything, they had ready answers using banking terminology that sounded official. When Margaret realized what happened the next day and contacted Bank of America directly, their response was devastating. Claim denied. The bank's investigation determined she had authorized the transfers herself, making it customer error rather than bank fraud. Their position? She should have known better. All right, now let's slow this down and walk through what actually went wrong here. This scam was engineered to bypass common sense, experience, and even banking knowledge. The first trick these scammers used was caller ID spoofing. Technology now allows criminals to make your phone display any caller ID they want. When Margaret looked at her phone, it literally showed Bank of America and displayed the actual customer service number from the back of her debit card. This isn't some amateur trick. It's sophisticated technology that makes detecting the scam nearly impossible for most people. The second trick, and this is where things get truly disturbing, was account information harvesting. Somehow these scammers already had access to Margaret's recent transaction history. They could recite exact purchase amounts, dates, and her current balance. This creates immediate trust because most of us assume only our legitimate bank would have this information. The reality is that criminals obtain this data through various methods: data breaches, insider access, malware, or even physical mail theft. The third trick employed was creating a sense of urgency and authority. The scammer used phrases like "your account is being compromised right now" and "we need to secure your funds immediately." They maintained a professional tone throughout, using banking terminology correctly and projecting confidence. Most importantly, they gave Margaret no time to think clearly or verify their claims independently. The fourth trick was positioning themselves as the solution. Rather than appearing threatening, they presented themselves as protectors. "We're here to help secure your money." The wire transfers were disguised as security protocols. They broke the transfers into multiple smaller amounts to avoid triggering fraud detection systems. Margaret believed she was following official bank instructions the entire time. Now let's discuss the brutal truth about what happens when you fall victim to this type of scam. Once wire transfers are completed, the money disappears within hours, often moving through multiple accounts across different countries. Bank reviews show these as authorized transactions because technically you participated in making them happen. This is why claims get denied. From the bank's perspective, you willingly transferred the funds. The recovery rate for wire fraud is less than 5%, meaning 95% of victims never see their money again. Legal battles with banks can drag on for months or years, often requiring attorneys most victims can't afford. Beyond the financial loss, there's severe emotional trauma and potential credit score impacts from account overdrafts or missed payments that follow. What makes this especially devastating is that federal deposit insurance doesn't cover wire fraud losses when the customer participates in the transaction. So how do you protect yourself? Let's identify the red flags that should immediately warn you something is wrong. First, phone call red flags. Be instantly suspicious of any inbound call claiming to be your bank, especially if they're asking you to move money for security reasons. Legitimate banks rarely ask you to transfer funds during fraud investigations. Be wary of any pressure to act immediately or requests for account verification over the phone. Second, conversation red flags. If a caller knows your recent transactions yet still needs you to verify account details, that's contradictory and suspicious. Be alert to multiple verification steps, any instructions to wire money anywhere, or threats about your account being frozen if you don't comply immediately. Third, behavioral red flags. Scammers will discourage you from hanging up, often asking you to stay on the line during transactions. They may request secrecy from family members or make multiple callbacks within a short time frame to maintain control over your decision-making process. Now let's discuss how to avoid falling victim to these scams with 4 critical prevention rules. Prevention Rule 1. Never trust inbound calls claiming to be your bank. Banks rarely initiate calls about fraud. They typically freeze suspicious transactions and wait for you to contact them. Always hang up and call your bank directly using the number on the back of your card. Verify concerns through official channels like your bank's app or website. Prevention Rule 2. Lock down wire transfers completely. Contact your bank today and request in-branch approval requirements for all wires. Set daily wire transfer limits to 0 by default, requiring you to specifically authorize any exceptions. Add verbal passphrase requirements to your account and enable text alerts for all wire transfer attempts. Prevention Rule 3. Separate your accounts strategically. Keep large balances in savings accounts with limited transfer capabilities. Use checking accounts only for daily expenses with minimal balances. Consider using multiple banks for different purposes, creating layers of security between your life savings and potential fraudsters. Prevention Rule 4. Establish a personal verification protocol. Train yourself to respond to any bank call with, "I'll call you back on the official number." Never share account details over the phone with someone who called you. Document all suspicious calls immediately with times, claim names, and what information they already knew about you. If you do find yourself targeted by this scam, here's your immediate action plan. Hang up immediately without explaining why. Scammers are trained to counter your objections. Call your bank's fraud line within 1 hour, as timing is critical with wire transfers. File a police report the same day, even if they tell you it's unlikely to help. Document everything meticulously: times, claim names, and transaction amounts. Contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and file a formal complaint. Freeze all your accounts immediately and change all passwords. Monitor your credit reports vigilantly for at least 90 days. Here's the hard truth: banks protect systems, not mistakes. If transactions look authorized on paper, recovery is nearly impossible. That's why prevention matters more than hoping for justice later. This scam didn't rely on stupidity, it relied on trust in familiar institutions. That's exactly why it keeps working. Hit subscribe if this helped you stay protected. Like this video to help others avoid this trap. Drop a comment sharing your own banking security tips. Click the next video to learn about the latest ATM scams targeting your PIN number.